feel like there's a zillion people I could thank. Instead of thanking everyone I've ever met in my entire life, I'll let you read the acknowledgements. Bob, though, thank you very much. There's one other person here, Don Gorman from Rocky Mountain Books, who I'd like to thank publicly just for his support, because he's hiding in the corner behind the good publisher. He was absolutely instrumental in getting this book out and seen and helping me get it published. So thank you, Don, for that. And if I forget anyone, it's just because I'm really nervous. I'm going to read a scene. As you can see, I've been indecisive about what to read, so I'm going to go to the first one and read from that. And it's a good scene for me because I don't have to give too much lead in. It's near the start of the book, but I think it encapsulates, for me, the sense of inspiration that mystery brings us in the mountains and what this whole book is about. Quick preamble, Hooker and Brown are the names of two mountains that border the pass that the fur trade went through for 200 years ago. And over time they became known to be 17,000 feet high. And of course, after the fur trade dissolved and the maps were all forgotten, the railway came through in 1883. And all the climbers that were coming from the east and from England, the first thing they did is look at the old maps. And they saw these massive mountains and they went searching for them. And it's in the process of searching for those two mountains that we found, or were discovered, the Columbia ice fields and a lot of the high peaks in the Rockies. So they were really enormous. These mountains were really significant, but the problem is they didn't exist. And the search for this mystery, which was so compelling and caused hardship to all these explorers, really grabbed me. And I wanted to explore how we keep that inspiration alive. In the scene that I'm going to read from, the narrator works for the Kananaskis Trail Crew. And he's a geologist. He's just finished his studies as a geologist, so he tends to see things a lot in that frame of mind. The only other thing I need to tell you before I read is there's a boss, his trail crew boss, which he calls the Ant, because he's rumored to be able to lift 6 times his own weight. And his trail crew partner, which he calls the Lion, just because of his character, which is revealed more near the end of the book. So, with that. The next day I hike with the thump of rain on my cap and a light pack because I'm wearing all my gear. The forest mists open and close around me like a school of fish. Only the sub-peaks of the ridges are visible, as if the mountains are dissolved in solution. Isolated hints of the elaborate fortresses above. I keep glancing at the map to see if the land is as amazing as I imagine. The blisters and aches of the first week have faded, and my boots look as though I've been hiking for years. The radio fizzles occasionally from the top pocket of my pack. The tools in the small garbage bag in my gloved fist hardly rattle, and the Pulaski no longer feels uncomfortable. The forest lulls me. I haven't even thought about the decision I know I have to make in the autumn. I'm just dawdling at a signpost between two clear choices. There's no hurry. I've got all summer. The mountains show the thrusts of the rocks, their passage and their faults. It's a good place to select the best route in life. At a section of wind-felled trees, I pull my park-issued red flip pad and note the work to be done. The graphite of the pencil smears on the damp pages. Graphite is the softest mineral of all. It's elemental carbon, and under different circumstances it could have become diamond, the hardest mineral. One is opaque and soft, the other hard and transparent. I like the potential of one to become the other. I've always had an affinity for carbon. My trail leads to a hill crest. I look warily at the clouds for the flicker of lightning, which can be fatal on an open ridgeline, and search the undergrowth for signs of bear and other wildlife. The Ant mentioned that this forest had burned completely in the 1930s, the fire igniting the coal seams that broached the ground. Apparently the coal still smolders deep underground, the combustion kept in check by the lack of oxygen. The Ant claims to be able to see smoke through the snow. During a hot, dry summer, which the Ant predicts this will be, the smoldering may reach the surface and spark. With the forest unburnt for 70-odd years, it's highly flammable. I asked him what we should do if we caught fire. Run, he said. From the ridge top, I turned slowly. I want to record the contours in my memory, but the mountains are always changing. The clouds pour from the west like the breaking foam of a great sea. To the north is clearer. The peaks have the color of wartime photos, grays, whites, dark navies, umber browns. They pose in position like a flotilla, painted in camouflage, the clouds catching on summits like the plumes from boilers. Before the geology, before my studies, before the explanations, I felt an innocent wonder at scenes like this. Something had happened here, something big. The earth had ripped itself up and pushed high into the air, rumbling and breaking. That energy still seems to vibrate. But I've lost my wonder, forgotten somewhere in the avalanche of books and terminology and math. In the shattered blocks of the ridge crest, several pits gape open. My favorite professor maintained that Blackfoot Cree and Kootenai natives climbed most of these peaks first, before the Europeans. During their vision quests, they would sit in a pit covered with logs and skins so there was no light, and remain like that at the top of the mountain for 4 days without food or water. But the pits I'm standing beside on the ridge are too small for people. At their bottoms, the rock is glassy like obsidian, a volcanic stone that doesn't occur here. The icy wind evaporates my heat. I watch the churning atmosphere to the west and radio my position to the line as the clouds start to flicker internally. This is nature's warning. Once the clouds have cleansed themselves of any positive charge, they will attempt to resolve their imbalance with the ground in the form of electrical bolts. Through the static, I ask the lion about the pits and jab a toe at the strange stone. I hear the anxiety behind his words. He says I'm standing where the lightning has channeled so much power that has blown the rock open and melted the stone to glass. I'm thinking that something in the ridge must be attractive, a deposit of ironstone perhaps. I know I need to get off the crest as fast as possible, but just then, something appears across the valley, in the clouds and rivets me. A smudge that remains immobile when all else is swirling. It expands into a ridge, shredding the clouds. It's straight and steep, impossibly close, rising hundreds of meters above me. It seems like a battleship prow, surging above an icy swell. I'm transfixed. Like it's a handhold of a dream, handhold I dream of when climbing, huge and hard. I'm still learning the park geography, but I'm certain nothing that large should stand so close. The snow plastered on the black rock hangs suspended from like a secret veil that hides some heroic, more perfect realm. The summit appears, cold and forbidding, where something blowing on the winds might catch. The view lasts only seconds. I take a bearing before the clouds seal. I turn and rush down, jumping with an energy that comes from the mists around me. What could the peak be? Only quartzite or dolomite can make cliffs that steep, but those formations are farther west. The rain comes harder, and I run with my tools down the slippery trail, panting up to my truck in the gloom. I drive with rubbery arms and finally come to the compound and the empty asphalt block. I want to run to the maps and solve the mystery, but I'll have to deal with my co-workers first. I've met some as staff arrives for the season, and no encounter is without long introductions. Friday night should be full of new humans. I walk from the truck down the shiny gravel, under the dripping spruce, to the peaty smells of moss and bark, to the mellow glow of the windows. The cookhouse is a squat log building overlooking a field of shadowy meadows, sweet and bog bean. Behind it are cabins, dark behind the moist trees, each divided into 4 rooms, our quarters. Back in the 70s, when the province poured money into the parks, a trail crew of 30 men lived in the cabins. Now the parking lot is nearly empty. The cabins are used by the sparse population of seasonal rangers, trail crew, and interpreters. The lion looks up and smiles as I enter the kitchen. That's a relief. Back from Elysium? The kitchen is separated from the wide living area by a door frame that has never held hinges, let alone a door. Compared to the dusk of the living room, the brightness here is startling. That ridge was scary, I said. It's called Elysian? No, he says. Elysian Fields, from mythology, where the virtuous souls would find eternal peace, he says, chopping lettuce. The name means someone struck by lightning, because Zeus was the god of lightning. It means you were blessed. At university, I had many nights to recall our climbing adventures. I tended to remember the line in emergency or in darkness, under a serac, suffering rockfall, in a blizzard, or reflected against the inky winter windows of humid huts. Yet in every memory, he was smiling. Right there. Again, thanks for coming out tonight and help me celebrate this.
Okay, so please